Hi, friends. Thanks for tuning in to the Mental Fitness Unscripted podcast, where our conversation will encourage your healthy living journey. Inspired by our Team Quadzilla coaching motto, healthy living starts between your ears, we talk about mental fitness in ways that challenge us to think about our thinking regarding topics like habits, leadership, exercise, values, marriage, parenting, and faith. Our hope with this podcast is to sharpen you as we sharpen ourselves to be all we were made to be. So let's dive right into the conversation on this episode of Mental Fitness Unscripted.
All right.
Well, good morning, Chad. You're looking good. Look at that.
Hello. Yes, we're outside today. I'm sucking up the remnants of the summer season.
The vitamin D.
Yeah, we're this is the part that I was whining about in the spring, that spring comes way too late and they better make it up for it in the fall. So now that we're halfway through September already, I am grateful for sunshine and 80 degrees, and it's just really nice here right now.
Good for you.
Not so much where you're at. Oh yeah, see, it's already
Good for you.
yeah.
That's why we grow really great potatoes. Yeah, we'll have a high. It's going to be 68 for the high, but it was 43 last night. So
Yeah. Well, I love that your climate helps to bring some perspective to the sorry Michigan, long dark winters. And we often fuss and complain about that here, and then all I have to do is see what's the weather like in Todd's neck of the woods, and I feel a lot better.
well, you got to remember we have those long dark winters too.
I know, even more so because it's already cold where you're at, and
Yeah. So
here I am sitting outside, so
it's funny.
no complaints.
We'll have people move here from the Sun Belt states and they'll say, "Man, is it just 9 months of winter here?" No,
Yeah.
no, we have our seasons. We do okay.
Yeah.
So, well, hey, we were going to talk about identity today.
Yeah, we got into it pretty good last couple of times, talking about relationships and stuff, and how um, having a firm grasp of who we are and our identity is pretty important. And so I can't wait to have some conversation about that.
I'm just going to kick it off from that. Our relationships really rely on who we are and who we identify as, because that's what we're bringing to the relationship is our identity. And if we're looking for identity in a relationship, we're looking in the wrong place.
Mm.
Because I have to be okay with me. Now, for support and so forth, because we all question, hey, am I doing the right thing? Or, man, I really fouled up on that or whatever. It's good to have that relationship, but I think we have to have some sort of foundation that we can lean on as far as our identity, and we have to be really careful with that. Where we get that inspiration for our, where we make the decision, or get the inspiration of who am I, what is my identity. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but that's what I bring to the relationship is I've got to be okay with me.
I really like that. And I agree that it seems very common or easy for us to claim or find our identity in a number of different things. It could be, what we do. I mean, how about men? Every time you introduce yourself, it's like, well, what do what do you do? And you answer, I am a fill in the blank for whatever it is that you do. And it's like, well, am I really identified by my career? I'm not sure. That seems pretty small, honestly. And And so there's that. There's our work. We might find our identity in some kind of special skill or talent, which also seems, when you think about it, pretty shallow or fleeting, because maybe you get old and you don't have that skill or talent anymore,
Or
so
or something
that's
we've
going
done
to
in
be
the
trouble.
past. Yeah, something we've
Yeah,
done in
or
the past.
yeah, some experience or achievement, or what, those things, we link our identity to that. And I'm very guilty of this too, and I wrestle with this whole idea. And but when we think about it, there has to be something else, something deeper, something more, and we need to be thoughtful about that.
If we took it one more step, so, let's say we're at a networking program, or, somebody introduces me to you and says, "Hey, this is Todd Hatch." And you look at me and say, "Well, hi, Todd, what do you do?" And see, that's kind of a natural course of, just getting to know somebody, because what you're looking for is just that association that you can put that person with, to associate with yourself, if that makes sense.
Yes.
But, let's let's use your career, for instance. What if we took it one more step, like I was saying, and we said, okay, inside of your career, how would you like to be viewed?
Mm,
How would you, what would you, not necessarily how do people look at you, but how do you want them to be impacted by you? That's probably a
mm.
better way to put it. Okay. What do you want to bring to the party in your career? How would you want to influence or impact people inside of your career?
Yeah, and now all of a sudden, in this introductory conversation, you're putting the person in deep thought mode. It's like, okay, can't you just be okay that I'm, a construction manager, and we move on? So yeah, especially I think with men, that
Well,
can be surprising,
yeah,
to challenge somebody to think, oh, well, what does that mean, or who are you really? Um,
but
yeah, that's good.
doesn't that uncover who we really want to be, though, or how we really want to be identified?
Yeah, and I think on spur of the moment, like you've just done with me here, is it makes me pause and reflect, and be like, well, I don't know that anybody's ever asked it to me that way before, and maybe I'm not so sure.
But we need to answer that for ourselves, so that when we
Yeah,
come,
absolutely.
when I introduce myself and say I'm a construction manager, I can say it with passion, because I know behind it what
Yeah.
impact I want to make on the people inside of my career.
Mm, yeah.
Whether it's your customers or the people you're working with, your boss, whatever, what impact do I want to leave, or, what inspiration do I want to have remaining there?
Yeah. But even still, isn't that more of like I don't know how to say other than a to do? Like it's what I do, maybe, or what I hope, but is that still, and does that even answer who I am? I can see that it might be getting us closer, but I'm not sure that it's still answering the question.
I think you're absolutely right. It's like, okay, well, what values, what standards, what, tasks, what things do I need to do to leave that impact? But I think there's another question behind that. So, now we're, what was that movie where they went into the dreams 7 times or whatever?
Oh, Inception.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's kind of like that. We've got the first one. Now we've gone to the second one, but now we got to go
Yeah.
to the third one. Okay. We got to go to the third
Okay.
level. Okay. And I think you're absolutely right. It becomes kind of this checklist of, what do I want to do? But on the third level, now we need to ask ourselves the question, who do I need to become to do those things, to
Mm,
influence?
yeah. So now we're transitioning from do to be, and yeah, I've done a lot of thinking about that. That is a valuable transition, because how does it go? Um, if you want to have something, you have to do something in order to have it. But in order to do something, you have to be something first. So
Yeah.
it starts with who I am allows me to do something so that I can have something. So that there's a natural progression there. And I said that very sloppily, but
Well, and it's a
who we
cycle
are
too.
and what we want to be has to be in front.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
It,
yeah, I like that.
and it is a cycle because it will build on itself as you know as we improve, and it becomes a progression. If we stay at the first level, well, I'm a CPA. You'll always be just a CPA. Okay. Well, what does that mean? And you know, if we take it, we'll use that Inception idea. You know, if we take it
Yeah.
a level deeper, then we find out, okay, well, I want to leave this legacy, or I want to be this impact on the people or my career. And then we take it one more level. Who do I have to become? And now we really have to sit down and think. And so, what's our true identity? Is it really a CPA, or is it this guy that I'm becoming to
Mm.
become this influential person that
Yeah.
happens to work as a CPA?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I think that's a great exercise for us to do regularly, is that sober self-assessment. It's kind of a mouthful, but really just to sit still long enough to think about, who do I really want to be, and what kind of person does it take to do or to have what I've got in my mind? How do I get there? It's like, I was just thinking this the other day. This is very different part of identity than, let's say, CPA or work related or achievement related. But I was thinking, what kind of um, how do I say this? What kind of husband do I need to be for Angie to feel um, uh, safe and, secure and loved and confident? And, how do I help her in those things? Who do I have to be for that to happen for her? And, that changes as we grow and change through different phases of life. And so I'm working through that right now, and I'm just thinking, man, there's in asking her straight up about these things, where do I need to improve, and who do I need to be, and not just things to do, but parts of my character, to who do I need to be so that I'm filling my part in the marriage relationship. So anyway, it was a little bit of a tangent, but that's something that's been on my mind.
Well, no, I think that's important because if I'm going to become something, there's a series of things. And this goes back to, you know, I think we talked about this another time, but natural law, you can't change it.
Mm.
Okay. You can only work with it. You can't change it. You know, gravity, um, I can't change it, but I can work with it. To fly an airplane, you've got to have gravity. It has to be in place. Okay. It's just immutable. Okay. So if I want to become something, there are some immutable things that I have to do, and I call them disciplines. And you know, we we get to this check off thing, and so you might call this our fourth level of inception of our inception idea. But who do I want to be? I need to break that down and say, okay, what are the practices? What are the what are the habits? You know, whatever you want to call them. What are the disciplines that I must do on a regular basis? And I'm going to say every day to become to be that person, to do those things that inspire and impact who I am.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that is fabulous. Because this is part of the extreme ownership, right? We've read that book together a while ago, but
Jocko
just the
Willink.
idea that taking full responsibility for ourselves in that regard, and it requires us to take action, to do some things. So it's not the direct. This isn't the doing directly to have, it's the doing to get to the be.
To
So
become. Yep.
yeah.
And it's important, but to your point, our actions make up who we become. We can think we're the greatest basketball player, but if I never practice basketball, that's a law.
Yeah.
Or if I
Yeah.
was the greatest basketball player, if I don't continue practicing, I'll lose it. That's a
Yeah.
law, and there's nothing I can do to change that.
Mm.
I was reading a book earlier this week. I can't remember the name of it. Isn't that awful? Hard Stuff, Easy Life by Jay Alderton. Hard Stuff, Easy Life, and he tells the
Okay.
story. And I've heard this story before, but do you remember Buzz Aldrin? He was the second man
Yeah.
to walk on the moon. That was his ultimate lifetime goal. And so he walks on the moon. Okay. Well, now what?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, now what? So he had achieved that in his career. That became who he was. His identity as he was getting to that pinnacle of his life there, what he considered the pinnacle of his life. He comes home. What's next? I mean,
Yeah.
I can't go walk on Mars right now. I've reached my pinnacle, and what he had not done is he hadn't become inside
Mm.
a person that could look for the next challenge. And,
Mm.
I'm not faulting him. He did some really great stuff, okay? But he came home and he was done, and he ended up he just drank and stayed in bed.
Mm.
You know, what's next? I mean,
Yeah.
how do you top that?
Yeah.
How do you
Yeah,
top
that's
that?
precisely what happens when we have our identity in the wrong place.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
And so it goes back to those disciplines. Now, he was very disciplined. I mean, he had to, he had to be top in his schooling. He had to be top in his flight training. He had to be top in his physical. I mean, that was an arduous. I don't know if you've ever watched the movie The Right Stuff, and just a little bit of what those guys went
Oh,
through. But
sure.
I
Yeah.
mean, it was
Grueling. Yeah.
extreme. Okay.
Yeah.
What he forgot to do was to work on himself in those
Yeah.
disciplines of who he is.
Yeah.
And so he
Mm.
identified with an event rather than with
Yeah.
who he was and the beautiful
Right.
person that he is. Now he did turn it around. I mean, he did turn it around, and he learned that lesson. But what a great lesson for us. I don't know. I have a car. This is kind of my donut thing. I have a car. It's one of my dream cars. Okay, I have several dream cars. My ultimate car. There's no way I'll ever afford it in this lifetime, but I think the last one sold for like $50 million. Anyway,
Oh boy.
yeah,
Wow. Okay.
that's my ultimate dream car. But this is one of my dream cars, and what's funny is I've worked for getting one of my dream cars. Okay. Well, I finally got this one. And what's funny is I got it and I discovered that the pursuit of it was much more fun than the getting.
Oh, that's good. That's
Okay.
so true. That is
And
so true.
I've done that with other things. I can give you a long list of, I pursue it, save for it.
Yes.
And, I'm looking for the right one. I mean, this is a very rare car. They're hard to find. And it's rare amongst the type of car it is. So I mean,
Mm.
there's few of this type of car, but there's even fewer of the one that I have. So anyway, it's like, okay, well, that's great. I have owned it. Let's see, I'm coming up on 6 years. I've owned it for 6 years, and I've changed the oil in it twice. Last year, I put 1 tank of gasoline in it. That's
Oh
it.
my goodness, Todd.
Okay, but that's it. Okay,
Yeah.
it's a garage queen, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it's kind of like, oh well, I got it. Now what?
Yeah. Now what?
Here's what we'll call it. We'll
uh,
call it the dog chasing the car out in the farmland.
hmm.
Okay, the
Yeah.
dog caught the car. Now what do I do with it?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So sometimes the pursuit is it's worth far more than the getting. And,
Yes.
and so for me, doing those disciplines to become, I need to be okay with that.
Mm.
That I don't ever get it. I
Mm.
I I, I
Yeah.
hope I hope that makes sense.
Well, it's the journey versus the destination, right?
It's
I mean,
it
we
exactly.
find no matter what it is that we're pursuing, to figure out how to love that pursuit, and that it's past the horizon for whatever that thing is. Because you said there's a whole list of things. I got the same list. I thought, geez, if I could just have this, or if I could just do that, and then it happens, and then it's instantly, now what?
Yeah. Now what?
And it just proves that we cannot we cannot make our identity locked to those things, because we're going to find disappointment in an emptiness. And so
Oh, I
I
love this
think,
car. I do. I love this car.
yeah, yeah,
But now what?
right. In the goals that we've achieved, or the things that we've had, or experiences we've done, we still appreciate those too, but it's not fulfilling, or it's not ultimately who I am. Whoop-de-doo, you did a triathlon, or whoop-de-doo, you bought the car, or you have the house, or you got the promotion, or you got the trophy spouse. I mean, none of those things, that it doesn't work. And yet, especially in our culture, I think we're wired to just keep chasing after the next thing and the next thing, assuming that that's what's going to fulfill, and it just doesn't. And I think a lot of really unhealthy mental illness, like um, depression and just discouragement, and that kind of thing, is can be rooted, or somehow linked to this pursuit, the achievement, and then the emptiness that goes with it, right? Uh-oh, did I lose you?
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, sorry, my computer's freaking out.
No, I totally agree. And I think what we try and do is we try and equate our finite, how do I put this? Our potential is infinite. And every time we expand that envelope, what we've done is we've done this beautiful thing, but we never achieve getting there because
Mm,
when we get there, that envelope is now expanded and there's more room for us to progress.
mm,
Okay, it's not finite. I'm going to call it infinite, and you can see this in people. You can see that some have grown far more than others, and it's because they're okay with, okay, I'm not there yet. Okay, I'm not there yet, and they just
yeah.
keep, and what it becomes is the motivation is that the discipline is the discipline.
Mm,
Instead of looking for an external inspiration or motivation, sorry, instead of looking for an external or motivation or inspiration, it needs to just be okay to stick with the disciplines and expanding those disciplines as that envelope grows. And this is something I struggle with. Man, when am I going to be a good man? And what's funny?
Yeah.
What's funny? Do I have it here? I think it's in my gym. Anyway, I've got a picture of this guy. He's all buff and he's got his armor on. You can tell he's kind of a Roman soldier kind of guy, and he's all
Okay.
buff and big muscles and everything. And it's got the quote. It says, "Stop arguing what a good man is and just be one," by Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah. Right.
Now stop
Yeah.
arguing, because we all know
Yeah.
what those disciplines are, and they're immutable, and we can, what is it? We can break ourselves against the law. Oh, you know what? I've got it on my. Hang on. I'm going to share so that we can. Oh, hang on. I still got you.
Yep.
Share my screen here. Can you see it?
Yeah. All right. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Yeah. Be. Yeah. It's not doing. It's being.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
That's good. So I think before we wrap this up, I really think we need to touch on another part of this identity piece, and that is there still has to be something constant. I mean, let's go back to the Inception show, right? They always went back to a constant. It was the spinning
the
thing,
little
or
top. Yep.
yeah, they needed a constant to root themselves in what is true and what is reality. And we're kind of using this as an illustration for identity here, but very much applies. We've got to have a root, a constant, and we've discussed at length here that it can't be any of these external things. It also, I think, there's a limit to the being part in the disciplines of the being part, because that's a pursuit that we're heading towards for sure, and we're growing in and expanding. But at the same time, there has to be a constant root of who I am. And I don't know how to explain that other than what our creator tells us who we are, right? And I think a lot of people miss this, and there can be no more sure thing than to know and understand how our creator sees us. And boy, there's great power in that. I feel like I need to preach for a minute, but I don't want to preach. but
Well,
but if we believe that God Almighty, creator of the heavens and the earth, has also created us, and that he sent Jesus to die in our place because we are imperfect and he is perfect. And because of that sacrifice, God now sees us through the lens of his perfect son, Jesus. So we are now saints. And that's a little bit weird to say, because it's much easier to say that we're sinners because we're often messing up. But when we understand how God sees us because of Jesus, and that we're saints and that we are dearly loved, and the most important thing to the God of the universe is you and me, and how he loves us and how he wants the best for us and how he has made us special and unique for a purpose that only we can fill. I mean, that's identity, right? I mean, what is better than that? What is better than knowing that we have this unfathomable love from the greatest thing that could come from.
What
And
a
we can rest and trust in that.
what a great constant to,
Yeah.
what a great
Yeah.
constant to establish that foundation on.
Right.
I don't, there's going to be people on here that will say, well, I don't know about God, and that's fine. I think if you really give yourself the opportunity and just look inside of yourself and say, is there something greater than me? I think the answer will always be yes, if you're really true to yourself. And I'm going to go out on a limb here. People may hate me for this, but the reason that we want to doubt that there's something like that out there is because we'll have to take responsibility and live to that. And that's hard.
Absolutely.
That's
Yes.
hard. Okay. And so,
Yes.
whatever you believe in, a greater power, a greater spirit, a God, I'm like you. I believe that there is a heavenly Father and that there is Christ. I believe that. And what you said earlier, I think to my core, that's what we have to identify with, is that I was created by something much greater than me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't chance.
Right.
It's like my desk. If I showed you my desk, it's a mess. It's like me looking at my desk and suddenly it just organizes itself. That doesn't happen without my hands organizing it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm
Yeah.
God. What I'm saying is that something has to influence that and create it. And so whatever you believe in, I'm kind of on my soapbox here too. Give yourself a chance to really look inside. And yes, it's scary to take that responsibility, but you know what? I really think that's the foundation of true identity, is taking that
Yeah.
responsibility of saying, you know what, there's something greater than me, and I need to live up to that, what that greater sees in me. If it's God,
Absolutely.
that's great, and it's scary, it's hard. But you know what? It's worth it. It's absolutely worth it.
It's worth it because, preaching to myself here, and I need to remind myself of this all the time,
Me too. Me too.
but there's great freedom and liberation in receiving and accepting, knowing, trusting that who I am uh, is valuable and it matters to God, and that I have purpose and meaning and value. Um, and I'm here at this time and in this place with these skills and in these circumstances because God has made for me to do that and to be that. Um, that gives me courage, I think. And I forget that very easily. And so this conversation reminds me that who I am is rooted in God through Christ, and He has made me to do His work, whatever that is. And my pursuit, my being, should be in that focus, right?
Yep.
And then I'm going to find what I've always been looking for, the fulfillment and the peace and the joy and the happiness
Yep.
and the contentment and all of that stuff that's not in just random experiences or having things.
Yep. And we could go on, but that's true charity when we take on the mission of our greater,
Mm,
of God in
yeah.
our instance, but in that greater power, when we take that on and want to bless others' lives, that's charity that Paul was
Mm,
writing about. And
yeah.
it's giving ourselves, I've heard it put this way, it's surrendering to that to create the power to win,
Mm,
to be victorious. It's surrendering ourselves to
yeah.
something greater. So anyway, this has been a great talk, and it's been good for me as a reminder too, because I get all wound up and tied up in my
Yeah.
I'm a
We're
marketer,
human. Yeah. Geez.
whatever. So but here again, give yourself the chance to just have a moment. Go where it's quiet Look inside of yourself and say, is there something greater than me?
Yeah.
And be open to it. Not, don't go there with this chip on your shoulder and a preformed um, determination. Um, be curious, be fascinated by it,
Mm.
and be okay with the responsibility that comes with it. Because here's what I want to end with: your greater power wants you to be successful, whatever it is. Okay, in our instance, for me, it's a heavenly Father and Jesus Christ. They want me to be successful, and they have set everything up for me to be successful if I'll accept that responsibility.
Amen. Yes. Yeah, that's great.
They're
Good stuff
not
today, Todd. That's awesome.
they're not here to punish us. They want us to be successful.
Right. Yeah.
Well, we got a
Yeah.
little
Cool.
preachy there, but you know what? I really
Yeah.
believe this applies to everyday temporal stuff. I really
Yeah.
do. Is it spiritual? Absolutely. But you know what?
Yep.
I see them like this.
Yes. Absolutely. Mental fitness includes our spiritual health.
Absolutely.
100%. 100%.
Spiritual, emotional, physical.
Yep.
It's all like this. It's not separate compartments. I
Yeah.
believe it's all intertwined. Chad, always good to be with you. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is fun. And I think next week I have a surprise for you.
Ooh. All right.
Remember